Nowadays, the availability of pornography is nothing like it used to be, right? Yeah. Someone used to have a magazine or a video. Now there's access to pornography is just, a couple, thumb taps to a couple people. And people can get very, young people can develop a lot of their arousal template to very extreme experiences, right? Because of the availability of extreme porn and never actually have any real world experiences. Yes. So if you think about it, their brains are becoming wired up to become aroused watching other people have sex.
Instead of having sex themselves.
Exactly.
So they're I've heard people like that they need to watch porn in order to come. So they're having sex while watching porn.
Or even to get aroused. And here,
clinical fetish.
I have to say, that I get hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of questions, different health topics and science topics. One of the most common questions I get is how to quit porn addiction. And I would say about 25% of the people that I'm aware of based on those questions and a few people that I happen to know who are porn addicted are women.
Yeah.
And it becomes an issue where, do you ask, can there become a self-conditioned Pavlovian response?
Yeah.
And it's like, absolutely. Anything that...
Just to clarify real quick for people listening, like what a Pavlovian reaction is.
So Pavlov won the Nobel Prize, the so-called Pavlov dog experiments, where basically you offer an animal some food or the smell of food, it starts salivating, but right before that you ring a bell. Yeah. And then pretty soon all you need to do is ring the bell and the animal starts salivating.
Yeah. So now they're reacting to the bell ring, not the actual...
Oh, psychology major, UCSB.
Baby.
Right? So I think that, anytime,
So you're saying we're doing that with porn?
Well, and with anything. Anytime we experience a powerful emotional response or physical response. So that could be sexual arousal, it could be hunger, it could be fear, it could be excitement. Whatever preceded that becomes the thing that our brain basically thinks leads to that. So the brain is a prediction machine. So and this has all sorts of roots around trauma and things that could be positive or negative. So you can imagine that if every time, your parent blinked and then they hit you when you were a kid.
See that blink.
You see someone blinking and you get kind of, your heart rate goes up, et cetera, because the brain generalizes, but it wants to predict what's going to happen next. On the positive side, if every time you arrived at your grandmother's house, you knew that there was going to be delicious food and you're going to feel very nourished, no trauma, then just walking up to a doorbell of a similar home, you might find I just feel good right now. We are very kind of crude in our wiring, right? Our brain generalizes to try and predict. So, but in terms of the extreme things like sexual arousal, if young, and I do say guys, it's women watch pornography also, that's been well established, but I get a lot of questions from guys who are addicted to porn and who have challenges in sexual interactions in the real world because they either need that or they don't really understand. They haven't been socialized in terms of normal consensual sexual interactions. And I always say, anytime we're talking about this sort of thing, the disclaimer is we're talking about age appropriate, consensual, context appropriate, species appropriate, right? Throw in species appropriate because, there's all sorts of things out there. So it's interesting, extreme stuff of any kind, or even, for instance, people who get really into fetish type sex, or they get into, having multiple, they get really into threesomes, right? This is a very, as long as we're talking openly, there are a lot of people that I know who got really into this during the kind of early stages of the polyamory movement, right? So, it started in the 70s, but then came back again in the early 2000s. And then they found that they could not get aroused with just one partner. And that's because their brain was so used to a certain set of things preceding this. That's extreme, right? I mean, it's for some people, it's
never
less extreme.
Never have I had less empathy for